What is a jewelry design center?
JDC is a family-owned business with deep roots in Montana. Why Montana? Because this community made us. Made us family, made us artisans, made us believe in love, made us hometown heroes. Because this community made us shine. Why Montana? Because Montana is home.
Tuesdays with Tootell, but instead with Peja Stojakovic as he chimes in here on his iPhone. Peja, how you doing?
Actually, I changed it. I'm now Hito Turcoglue.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Hito's a good one too.
Yeah.
Ryan and I are zooming only because when we shoot video in the studio, the gigabytes are massive and it tends to overload the website. And we just got too much content this week to do it. But, I like seeing his pretty face on the cell phone anyway. So,
well, the demand for the face was very high. And so, we're here to make Montanans happy. And that includes the moneymaker to go along with the voice. Well, we got to have it all.
We had radio for 100-something years, and then we had podcasts, and then everybody decided they wanted to see the people talking. I don't know why, but they did. So here we are. Let's dive right into it.
Yeah.
First of all, what do you think of the position that each Montana and Montana State have put themselves coming into the 123rd rendition of the greatest rivalry in college football?
Well, obviously, Montana State's in the best position you could possibly be in. They're undefeated, and they're the number 2 team in the nation, and they are sitting there ready to make a run to Frisco. It's Frisco or bust for Montana State, in terms of what they've accomplished this season. The Grizzlies also have it all out there in front of them. If they beat the number 2 team in the country on the road, and they're going to have themselves a home playoff game. We'll see where the bye, if there would be a bye involved there. I kind of doubt it, but it would be close, right? But also, they line it up, and then you see where the chips fall in terms of the bracket, and who you got to beat and where you might have to go play and all that. But that's the beauty of having a 24-team playoff and having 2 good football teams playing each other on the last day of the year, because it means something significant to both these teams. Obviously, an undefeated regular season and an undisputed unshared Big Sky Conference championship is available for the Bobcats. And they're going to have a bye regardless of outcome in this football game. The Montana State will, but to essentially sew up a home run to Frisco, like home games all the way through until you got to go to a national championship, should you make it that far, that's a huge deal. And so that's a big deal. And for the Grizzlies, you lose this game and you end up with 4 losses on the season, and you're in the postseason, but you're going to have a very tough road to hoe. And so nobody knows exactly where the chips will fall on that. But this, winning this game for Montana probably adds at least a week to their season. It seems to me in the postseason. So there's a lot on the line as always, and of course there doesn't need to be anything on the line. It's Cat Griz, baby. That's you don't need to add to it, but it is beautiful that it is in the context of a bigger season and a postseason coming.
What you just said about the Cats is so spot on in the fact that they are they're in the driver's seat no matter what happens. Even if they get destroyed on Saturday, which I do not foresee happening, but even if they did, they're still going to get, I think, at the minimum, probably the 5 or 6 seed.
Right.
And they're going to get the 2 or 1 if they win. And that's a good spot to be in.
No doubt.
I ask you this, though. Losing the game colors the way people look at your season so often, regardless of everything else that you do. And if you lose the game and then go all to the national championship game, which has happened once, but that was in 2021 when the Cats did it, you can sort of erase the bad taste of losing the game. My question is, though, because history is on the line. There's never been a 12-0 team in Big Sky Conference play. There's been a lot of teams that have finished 11-0. No one's ever gone undefeated in the 12-game season. It only happens once every 5 years, but it's never happened. The Cats have also never ran the table in the Big Sky as well as go undefeated for the regular season, and they haven't won an outright conference title in 40 years. They did in 2011 technically, but they lost that game to the Griz, and then that title got vacated for Montana. So their first like true outright was 40 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
All of that history, does that bring pressure to Montana State in this game?
I don't think so. And the reason is, if you surveyed the football team, I'll bet less than half of them know what you just said. You know, these are young guys. I mean, they'll know about outright championships and what's on the line in that respect, but like the historical context of it and that adding pressure, I don't think so at all. I think it's just the pressure is what it is. It's Cat Griz. It's and there is a lot on the line. Everybody knows the big stuff of playoff seeding, Big Sky Conference championship outright. They'll know the history of how many times they've had that or not had that, and so on. I think that all plays, but being 12-0, I bet a tenth of the players know that there's never been a 12-0 team in Big Sky Conference play because again it's even less frequent than a leap year that you get it. So I don't think that kind of stuff really matters to them all that much, quite honestly.
For the Griz, it's so interesting because even if you lose in Bozeman and you go to the playoffs and you win a playoff game and then you go lose the next week, it all just snowballs itself. It all just compounds itself, and everybody remembers this as a bad season, period. But then if you win this game, now you're playing with house money to the maximum because you're going to get a bye, and then you're probably going to win that game, and then you're in the quarters, and okay, the expectation at Montana's Final Four or bust. But to go to the quarters after you got your butts beat by Weber State at home, and then Weber didn't win again, that would be an objective, at least improvement down the stretch for Montana. So,
yeah, I mean, winning this game, period, regardless of where it goes in the playoffs, would validate the Montana Grizzly football team and eviscerate any question marks, worries, distaste, discomfort, unhappiness in Grizz Nation, period. It has been a rocky road this season for Montana overall, and all of that can be it all becomes proven or disproven based on the outcome of this football game, man. And so this is a huge game. This will be the narrative setting game for Montana in this season. It's kind of interesting because Montana State, win or lose, has had a great year and has a great postseason run awaiting them more than likely.
Yeah.
But the Grizzlies, they have to win this game in order to stable the ship, so to speak. And this is interesting too to me, Colter, because this game has not been close for the last several years. Just blowouts by the home team, back and forth.
43-13.
But I don't think
the score of the last four. 43-13. That's right. The score of the last four.
I don't think, though, that we've had a game where we have had such a huge favorite and underdog entering the game as we have in this one in a long time.
Ever.
So this is wild to like the whole, anything can happen in the rivalry and all of that, but the level of expectation that Montana State's going to roll in this football game, I've never seen something like it. And so that also, though, for Montana would go so far. Like it would not just be a win, but I mean, Bobby Houck talked about it in the press conference yesterday. Going in as an underdog is kind of an interesting place to be, and we're going to embrace that to some extent. He says, about his team. So I think this is a wrinkle or a difference in this particular edition of the ball game that we have not encountered before, and really sort of shades, I think, the way that people perceive what this game is going to be heading into it, and also what will happen coming out of it.
Let's talk narratives then for a minute outside of the scope of this specific season, because there's always a narrative that's independent of the actual season within the scope of the rivalry. In other words, Montana State has won 6 out of the last 8 in the rivalry. But Montana's won 2 out of the last 3. But
Right.
those were in Missoula. The last time the Griz were in Bozeman, Montana State beat the absolute heck out of them. So there's all that. But I guess let's start with the Cats. On the Cats side of things, you're right. They still have so much out in front of them, even if they lose this game. But the narrative of their program, it's very important for them to win this game because what has Brent Vigen done? He's beat everybody. He has beaten up on every single team in the league. They are 43-9 under his direction. They're the Big Sky champs for the second time in 3 years, but he's 1-2 against the Griz. And as we know, there's a huge part of both fan bases that the rivalry takes priority over everything else. And so I think it's just a massive part of the narrative for Montana State within the scope of the rivalry.
No question. And it's interesting because at this point, his fourth one of these, Coach Vigen is very much embroiled and a part now of the fabric and the history of this rivalry. With that said, I think he still has what I would call a certain healthy distance almost in terms of not making it bigger than it needs to be for him. It's so much bigger to the fan bases in terms of the importance of it. This is the most important football game of the year. Everybody knows that, and no one would say otherwise, including Coach Vigen. If you held his feet to the fire, like this is it. But it's not more important than that, if I could put it sort of weirdly. Like fan bases, this is live or die with this football game. And Montana State, if they lose, it'll be a huge upset and it'll be a massive disappointment. And it would be a huge a task, I think, to get the mindset of your team right to then make a run in the playoffs. I mean, we remember what happened last year. They lose at Montana after having an unbelievable season, get crushed. They had a bye week, and they played a great game against North Dakota State, but it was ultimately a loss, and they finished their season on 2 just awful disappointments. And it's difficult to sort of pull it together, especially when you're favored the way you are, playing at home, like undefeated. If Montana State were to lose this football game, it would be as disappointing as a loss as it's possible to have in the rivalry for them. And I think conversely, it would be about as positive and exciting and as elating a victory for Montana as it would be possible to have in this rivalry. So it has a lot to it. And I think Coach Vigen, though, is able to be a little bit even with his team. You know what I mean? Like he's able to sort of keep those emotions in some level of check because of just sort of his disposition and also how he entered from the outside, so to speak. He didn't come up in the program, in the state, and so on, where he has that level of emotional investment.
And he said that on Monday. He said, hey, when I got here, I compared this thing to North Dakota State, and then I realized very quickly that that's not what this is.
No. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is you can't undersell it either.
No,
you can be wrong going too hard, and you can be way wrong not going hard enough. And he certainly was the first on his first rodeo.
Yeah. So then when it comes to the Griz narrative, though, Bobby Hauck is 7-5 in his career against Montana State, but just 2-3 since returning to Montana. A loss would make him 2-4 and would almost even his record against the Cats, which I don't think anybody would have had that on their bingo card when he first came.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like the narrative of you're a great coach, but you can't beat the rival, that has not rained down on Bobby Hauck ever in his career at Montana. It's rained down on Bob Stitt. It rained down on Rob Ashe at Montana State as well. And Jeff Choate is glorified beyond belief because of the opposite of that factor. I mean, think about this. Jeff Choate went 29-25 in 4 years at Montana State. Brent Vigen is 43-9, but still Choate has greater reverence because he beat the Griz 4 times in a row. So there is such a way that it colors people's opinions about you. But for Hauck, he's never had this. The thing that's missing is you can't beat the Cats narrative. If they lose on Saturday, I'm not saying that's my narrative, but that narrative certainly exists in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it would be to be 2-4 in the last 6 if Montana were to lose this game for Coach Houck. That would be a pretty clear delineation to me, because now it's happening over time, right? And what did Bobby Houck say when he first got the job again at Montana? What's different about the Big Sky Conference? The only thing that's different, the Griz aren't on top. That's it. So RTD, let's roll, right? And to his credit, they rolled all the way to Frisco last year, and they have been obviously miles better than they were under Bob Stitt, and they have been a force at the top of the Big Sky Conference year in and year out. But they have not been on the top. They haven't been the definitively best team ever in the Big Sky Conference since Bobby Houck came back, and they're not even in the top 3 right now. The top 2 at least. They're at best 3rd in the Big Sky at the moment, which again ain't bad unless you're the Montana Grizzlies. And it is colored the more by how strong the Montana State program has been, built under Jeff Choate and then continued by Brent Vegan. And so that reality is very, very stark for folks in Missoula and Griz fans around the state. And I think that it is a very uncomfortable reality for Bobby Houck to look at being a 16.5 point underdog. Not that the actual line matters from, it's the betting and stuff, but I mean, it matters in terms of how much better the perception, at least at this moment, is that Montana State is than Montana. I mean, that is a huge step. It's not just that you're 3rd but it's a 3-point game because the home team gets a field goal favorite. This is they're saying no. These are 2 teams that are not really that close.
That's right.
And we'll find out on Saturday if that's true.
Here at Five Valleys Restoration, your view is our view, and what a beautiful view it is. We are proud to be locally owned, locally operated. We love our community here in Missoula and also the full Five Valleys that we do service. We give back to the community, we service our community. Our kids go to school here, we live here, we play here.
The Treasure State University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Griz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the Big Sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez now on 1029 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Griz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship.
No doubt. Okay, let's get to your list. Over Tuesdays with Tootell, probably presented by Jewelry Design Center. Jewelry Design Center wants to be your jeweler for life. If you've never been in there, go in there. You need a piece of jewelry cleaned, they'll clean it for you for free, and then you can check out their beautiful showroom. You can check out their beautiful workshop in the back. You can experience the best customer service in the Garden City. Jewelry Design Center across from the Montana Club on Brooks, your jeweler for life. All right, your first subject, sports bet line and the rake. So 16.5 is what the Cats opened at, and it's held pretty steady there. We're recording this on a Tuesday. So it hasn't moved much. It's only been a day or so. So tell me what you mean by the sports line and the rake.
Okay. I don't want to upset sponsors here. And I'm not gonna express this with the vehemence at which I feel it. But you know me, I'm not much of a sports bettor. I'm not a gambler, as it were. But I thought, it's Cat Griz. Maybe I will place a little wager on this. And I went in and I saw that, okay, it's at 16.5. And think about what that means. But then I saw the rake it's at 16.5. And it's the the winnings are at -125, both sides. That is criminal on the part of Sportsbet Montana. That is absolutely absurd to have the line be in a place where then even if you win it, you are only getting 75% of what you put down. And I'm just saying that is unprecedented in any sports gambling setting that I've ever seen before in my life. -105, maybe -110 at the most. If you're going to play the spread, which is supposed to be set to get even money on both sides, and to take a quarter of everything that's laid down, you're losing money. I will place no money on this game as a result of that. So that's just my one complaint, and I think it's egregious. So there we go. That's the first thing.
Yeah, it's not just independent. Not just independent to this game. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, I know it's Cat Griz, obviously, and we're looking forward, but I thought there was some stuff coming out of this last weekend that are important going into this game for both of these football teams. First of all, what a game between Montana State and UC Davis. And yet I'm going to tell you, okay, this is where the FCS kind of does, they're close, but they're just not there when it comes to the FBS and stuff. Lan Larson fumbled the football on the 1 yard line. There is no question that ball was out and recovered by Montana State in the end zone when it was 30-8 going in there. And they did not review it, or in theory, every play is reviewed right in the FCS, but they didn't stop the game to go back. That ball is out. It just is. And it's not even really that close. And that was the break that UC Davis needed to get back into it. And give them all the credit in the world. They score on the next play. They get a 2-point conversion. They get an onside kick. They go down and score another touchdown. I mean, holy cow, what a rodeo that doggone thing was the last 2-3 minutes of what was otherwise a complete manhandling by Montana State in the football game. But what I'm saying is that people will wake up and look at 30-28 or even watch the game and go, wow, like UC Davis really gave the Cats a run for their money, and ultimately they did. I think that ball is Montana State's football in the end zone, and I think this game ends 30-8 if that call is made the way that it seemed very clear to me that it should have been. Also, Lan Larson is the real deal. I mean, what a great player that is. And also, I wanted to ask you to just update us on the status for. I know that they said Scottree Humphrey will be ready to go in the game here for Montana State against the Grizzlies. But do we have any expectation of limitation for any of the backs for Montana State heading into this game Saturday, coming out of some being banged and injured and that stuff?
Yeah, Brent Vigen's as open as any coach I've ever dealt with in terms of that stuff.
Yeah.
He said he thought Humphrey would be full go.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, Julius Davis and Scottree Humphrey are like, Scottree Humphrey's an elite player. Julius Davis is like same. I mean, Julius Davis is an all Big Ten running back. I mean, he started at Wisconsin before he got hurt. I mean, he's the Wisconsin High School Player of the Year. I mean, the guy is super legit. He was a second-team All-Big Sky selection last year. And last year, the way they spread it around in the rush game, you weren't going to have a first-team All-League guy just because they didn't have the guy that with the big numbers. All that said, Scottree Humphrey's had an outstanding year, historic year, honestly. He's tied with Troy Anderson for the most 100-yard games in a single season. But if your next guy is Julius Davis, and then your next guy is Adam Jones, who's a finalist for the Jerry Rice Award, I don't know if the answer is that big of a deal. I think
But I will say Montana rushed for, I think, 157 or 159 yards in this game against UC Davis. If I'm not mistaken, Montana State, sorry, yes. That is their lowest rushing output of the season.
By 146 yards.
And again, is there much to read into that? I don't know. But I don't think those were the numbers that you were looking for in the penultimate game of the year. You know what I mean? The other thing that I just wanted to add, just for what it's worth, New Mexico beat Washington State, the number 18 team in the nation, on Saturday. Notably, in Albuquerque, which is exactly where Montana State started their season, with a win. The Lobos are now 5-6. They're 1 win away from a bowl game. What Bronco Mendenhall has done with that football team, they are a completely different team from week 1 to now week 11. So I'm not sitting here trying to say anything, but I just think it's worth noting that New Mexico is not a 0-win dumpster fire of a football team. Like, they're a respectable program.
I mean, they got 5 wins, right?
Yeah, 5 wins. They're 1 win away from being bowl eligible, and I think that, again, what they were week 1, let's put it like this: if Montana State were to play New Mexico right now, it would be an even money game at worst, it seems to me. You know what I mean? I think that New Mexico has made that sort of strides with a brand new coach in that, but still a fantastic win, and an even better win in retrospect than you might have thought.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Right down the road, pump it up. Oh, yeah.
So will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
Let's go to Montana. Kia Eliayat comes in and is just bad for basically the entire first half, and then gets injured. And he was the guy. They rolled with him. He was the starter. He didn't get pulled. They didn't switch quarterbacks until he got hurt. And whether that's as a result of an Instagram post or whether that's a result of just wanting him to be the guy, I don't know. But he was not good. And we will have a lot more to say about that when this season comes to a close and we see what the final chapter is in terms of the quarterback situation at Montana. But we can say this for sure. Logan Fife came in and was very good, very effective, 3 touchdowns. I think he had 9 pass completions for 197 yards, 3 scores, was wildly efficient. Got in a full-fledged screaming match with Bobby Houck on the sideline. Actually, I should say that differently. Bobby Houck MF'd him up and down and would not stop. In what I thought was completely excessive, and I give tons of credit to Logan Fife for finally having had enough of it and going right back at him. And ultimately, Justin Green had to come over and kind of separate him and take him away. Within 60 seconds, Logan Fife had gone back over to Coach Houck, helmet sort of over his mouth where you couldn't see what he was saying, and they were hugging each other in quite honestly like a level of obvious affection that I haven't seen. And sometimes that happens when anybody, we've all been in heated arguments, heated confrontations with people before, and once that moment is over, sometimes you can come back together and it can be an even better relationship and situation on the other side of those things than it was before. It's got to happen quickly when you're in the middle of a football game, and at the moment I think it was 7-3 if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, this is the third quarter, and the Grizzlies were by no means, running away with the football game against Portland State. But I thought for a moment that I was watching just a real-time huge fracturing of a relationship that was already under a lot of stress because of the way quarterbacks have been used and because of, the oil and water mixture maybe of personalities and stuff. And then I feel like I watched in real time that all come back together. And Logan Fife played great. And Coach Vigen said this straight up in his press conference. We watched the game and we fully expect Logan Fife to be the quarterback on Saturday. He has to be. He has to be the guy on Saturday. There's no question. And nobody's stumped harder for Ayat than I have. But I think the mishandling of this quarterback situation, as I see it, has obviously led to a separation of one being better than the other. And in this case, it's going to be Logan Fife's show. And he's going to have to be great, man. He's going to have to be as good as he's been all year to go against Montana State. And the Grizzlies, end up winning that football game by 2 scores and doing so with the power out to the entire university. It was actually fun because it was like the old days when you had to be in the stadium to know what was going on. There's no radio, there's no TV. You got to be there to see it. And even though the game was pretty well in hand by that time, 6 minutes to go in the football game when that fiasco took place, it was ultimately a good win for Montana, and they held on in a moment where there was a lot of pressure. I mean, they played poorly in the first half. I think Bruce Barnum would like to have his double reverse pass play call on the 5-yard line back because Portland State just ran wherever they wanted to over Montana in the first half of that football game. Montana played much better defensively, I felt like, in the second half. But they did not score when they had an opportunity, and they could have been up 10-0 at half. Instead, it was 3-0. Now, I will say, I said in the second half, the Grizzlies did give it up on the ground in the third quarter to Portland State in that game. And I think everybody is sitting here kind of going, well, if there's a mismatch, it is the Montana State running offense against the Grizzly running defense. That looks like where the imbalance is. And you would probably bet the house, bet the farm on it if it wasn't for Montana State having just put up a pretty normal average amount of yards on the ground. And to your point, 140 yards less than their next lowest output of the season against UC Davis this past week. So again, maybe that good on UC Davis. We know they're a very good team. That's the best team Montana State has played in conference this season for sure. But nonetheless, that to me is going to be the tale of the football game, and I'm not uncovering any hidden gems by offering that piece of insight.
We never do full-on game predictions for the rivalry game, but I always like to Cats will win if, Griz will win if. I'm going to save mine for later this week, but I'll let you have the stage for our last little moment here. Cats will win if, Griz will win if.
Well, the Cats will win if they run the football the way they've run the football in 10 out of their 11 games coming into this game. Even if Montana plays really well offensively, and I think they have a chance to do that, if they can't stop Montana State on the ground, I don't see a way for Montana to win this football game. And just about nobody has been able to do that to this point. And, I'm going to stay away from things like the turnovers and that kind of stuff. That stuff I think is pretty obvious. Like, neither of these teams can turn the ball over and you can't be more than -1, I think, in the turnover category and win the football game. But the Grizzlies need to find a way to stop the Cats on the ground. And also, I mean, Tommy Mellott has been much better as a passer throughout this entire season, and again the back end of this season, just from an efficiency standpoint, and using him as a thrower of the football. I mean, he's been excellent. So Montana State can kind of do it however you want, but of course, first and foremost, it happens on the ground, and that includes obviously Tommy Mellott as well. He, one of the things is he ran for nothing in the game at UC Davis, and that is a big change from what Montana State is accustomed to. So Montana State, they got to run the football and run it effectively. And if they can do it pretty much when they want, how they want, they're going to win the football game. For the Grizzlies, the converse then is obviously true. Can you stop the Montana running attack? And specifically, can you hold touchdowns to field goals? And I'm going to bind up in that the big plays. Montana State, their explosives are like off the chart in terms of how many touchdown runs of over 30, 40, 60 yards they have on the season. The Grizzlies need to be able to eliminate the big play. And then the other thing is this: Montana has been at times incredibly good, explosive, prolific on offense, and they've had a couple of games where they just haven't been. And Saturday, it has to be clicking for them. Eli Gilman went for 130 on like 10 carries or something like that against Portland State this past Saturday. That's the Eli Gilman they need, and they need to feed Eli Gilman. Okay, I know Nick Osmo's there, but this has to be the Eli Gilman show, man. He's got to be the guy back there running 80% of the time that the Grizzlies are going to go on the ground. And also the pass catchers for Montana, along with Logan Fife, and I'm going to say it has to be Logan Fife, have to be there. And that a lot of that has to do with the offensive line of the Grizzlies, and are they going to be able to hold up front against this Montana State pass rush? I don't know if they will be able to, but they have to be able to, because even if the defense is able to make some stops, Montana State's going to score points, man. They score a lot of points, and the Grizzlies are going to need to keep up. I mean, I think this game, Montana has to score 35 to win at a minimum. I don't think the Grizzlies can score less than 30 points and win the football game. So if you want to say the Griz win if they score 38 or more and are able to limit in some way the explosives in the run game from Montana State.
Spot on. Tuesdays with Tootell here on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series, as well as the Sky and Sports YouTube channel. Gus, looking forward to spending some time with you this weekend.
Dude,
man.
It's the greatest week of the year, buddy. Can't wait.